Imagine you're a German officer walking through the ruins of Stalingrad. You've survived months of brutal urban combat. You're exhausted, cold, hungry, but you've made it this far. You step out of your bunker to check on your men. You light a cigarette. You take a breath. And in that instant, you're dead. A single bullet through the head. You never heard the shot, never saw the sniper, just dead. Your killer is somewhere in the ruins, maybe 800 meters away. His name is Vasily Zaitsev, but the Germans call him something else, the Hare. Because like a hare, he's impossible to catch. And when you finally spot him, it's already too late. In just 2 months, one Soviet sniper killed 225 confirmed German soldiers. He trained dozens more snipers who killed thousands. And in the most famous sniper duel in history, he killed the best sniper Germany sent to stop him. This is the true story of Vasily Zaitsev, the man who turned Stalingrad's ruins into a killing ground, who broke German morale one bullet at a time, and who became the most celebrated sniper of World War II. Stay with me, because what happened in the frozen hell of Stalingrad will show you how one man with a rifle can change the course of history. Chapter 1. The Hunter from the Urals. March 23, 1915. A small village called Yelenovsk in the Chelyabinsk region, deep in the Ural Mountains of Russia. A baby boy named Vasily Grigorievich Zaitsev was born into a family of peasants. The Urals are harsh, brutal winters, dense forests, isolation. Survival required skill, toughness, and an understanding of the land. Vasily's grandfather was an experienced hunter. From the time Vasily could walk, his grandfather took him into the taiga, the vast Siberian wilderness. For days at a time, young Vasily and his younger brother would track wolves with their grandfather, setting traps, sleeping in the snow, learning to move silently through the forest, learning patience. At age 12, Vasily received his first personal weapon, a large single-barreled Burdon rifle. It was so heavy, Vasily could barely carry it on his back. His grandfather gave him one rule. Bullets are scarce. One shot, one kill. There was no room for wasted ammunition. Every shot had to count. So Vasily learned. He practiced. He became a patient, deliberate marksman. His first trophy was a wolf. A single bullet, clean kill. Vasily carried that wolf home on his back, exhausted but proud. By his teenage years, Vasily Zaitsev was one of the best hunters in the Urals. But hunting wolves was just preparation for what was coming. Chapter 2. From the Navy to the front line. In 1937, at age 22, Vasily Zaitsev joined the Soviet Pacific Fleet. He became a clerk in the artillery department. Later, he was appointed head of the finance department for the Pacific Fleet in Transfiguration Bay. Vasily was good at his job, organized, reliable, but he hated it, sitting at a desk, doing paperwork. This wasn't what Vasily had imagined when he joined the military. Then on June 22, 1941, Nazi Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, invading the Soviet Union with over 3 million soldiers, the largest invasion in history. The German Wehrmacht smashed through Soviet defenses. Millions of Soviet soldiers were killed or captured. The Germans advanced deep into Soviet territory, reaching the outskirts of Moscow, besieging Leningrad. And like thousands of other Soviet sailors and airmen, Vasily Zaitsev volunteered to transfer to the front line. He submitted application after application requesting combat duty. Finally, in the summer of 1942, Vasily's request was approved. He was transferred from the Pacific Fleet to the Red Army and assigned to the 1047th Rifle Regiment of the 284th Tomsk Rifle Division. On September 22, 1942, Vasily's regiment arrived at their destination, Stalingrad. Hell on Earth. Chapter 3. The Crucible. August 23, 1942. The Battle of Stalingrad had begun. The German Sixth Army, led by General Friedrich Paulus, was ordered to capture the city at all costs. Stalingrad was a major industrial city on the Volga River. It bore Stalin's name. Capturing it would be a massive psychological and strategic victory for Germany. The Germans attacked with overwhelming force. Bombers, artillery, tanks, infantry. The city was pounded to rubble. Entire neighborhoods were obliterated. Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin issued Order Number 227, not one step back. Any soldier who retreated without orders would be shot. The Soviet 62nd Army, commanded by General Vasily Chukov, was ordered to hold Stalingrad or die trying. When Vasily Zaitsev arrived in Stalingrad, the city was unrecognizable. Buildings reduced to skeletal ruins, streets choked with rubble, bodies everywhere, the air thick with smoke and the stench of death. The fighting was unlike anything in military history. This wasn't open battlefield warfare. This was urban combat, room to room, building to building, sometimes hand to hand. The Germans controlled most of the city. The Soviets clung to a narrow strip along the Volga River. Supply lines were constantly under attack. Ammunition was scarce. Food was scarce. Hope was scarce. Vasily was issued a standard Mosin Nagant rifle, and he went to work. Chapter 4. The Birth of a Legend. In his first 10 days in Stalingrad, using just his standard issue rifle, Vasily Zaitsev killed 40 German soldiers. 40! In 10 days. His commanders noticed. This wasn't luck. This was skill. Vasily was hunting Germans the way he'd hunted wolves in the Urals. Patience. Precision. One shot, one kill. Vasily was given a sniper rifle with a telescopic sight, and then his kills accelerated. Vasily developed tactics specifically for Stalingrad's unique environment. The city was a maze of destroyed buildings, rubble piles, collapsed walls, perfect for a sniper. Dozens of hiding places, hundreds of angles, endless opportunities. Vasily would find a position with good visibility and concealment, sometimes on high ground, sometimes under rubble, sometimes in water pipes or sewers. He'd observe German positions for hours, days, watching, learning their patterns, their habits. German officers were creatures of habit. They'd emerge from bunkers at the same time each morning. They'd smoke cigarettes in the same spots. They'd use binoculars to observe the battlefield, never realizing that reflected light from those binoculars was marking them for death. Vasily would wait, patient, motionless, for hours if necessary. And when the perfect shot presented itself, he'd squeeze the trigger. One bullet, one dead German. Then Vasily would relocate before the Germans could find him. By November 1942, Vasily had killed over 100 German soldiers, and the Germans were starting to panic. Chapter 5. The Sniper School. Soviet High Command recognized Vasily's value. He wasn't just killing Germans, he was terrorizing them, breaking their morale, making them afraid to move during daylight. So the Soviets made Vasily an instructor. He was ordered to train more snipers, to create a cadre of sharpshooters who could replicate his success. He set up a makeshift sniper school in the heart of Stalingrad, in destroyed buildings, under constant German bombardment. His training methods were brutal but effective. He taught his students to be patient, to study the enemy, to understand German tactics and psychology. One of Vasily's training exercises involved forcing students to sit motionless in abandoned warehouses for an entire day, just watching German positions through their scopes. Not shooting, just observing. Enemy movements, identifying targets, understanding patterns. If a student moved too much, made noise, gave away their position, they'd be punished. Because in real combat, a single mistake meant death.
Vasily also taught group tactics. Instead of one sniper working alone, Vasily pioneered the concept of sniper teams, a spotter and the shooter working together, or even multiple sniper pairs covering one large area from different positions, creating overlapping fields of fire. The snipers Vasily trained went on to kill thousands of German soldiers. One of his students was a young woman named Tanya Chernova, who became Vasily's partner both in combat and romantically. Tanya herself notched 80 confirmed kills before being wounded. By early 1943, Vasily Zaitsev had created an army of snipers, and the Germans were desperate to stop him. Chapter 6. The Duel with Major Kunik. According to Vasily's memoirs and Soviet propaganda, the Germans sent their best sniper to Stalingrad with one mission: kill Vasily Zaitsev. His name was Major Erwin Koenig, allegedly the director of a sniper school near Berlin, an expert marksman, a hunter of snipers. The duel between Zaitsev and Koenig became legendary, immortalized decades later in the 2001 film Enemy at the Gates, starring Jude Law as Vasily and Ed Harris as Koenig. But did it really happen? Historians debate. The Russian Ministry of Defense archives contain no record of Major Koenig. British historian Anthony Beevor suggests the duel was Soviet propaganda. But Vasily insisted it happened. He wrote about it in his memoirs. He described a 3-day duel with a German master sniper who killed several of Vasily's comrades before Vasily finally tracked him down. Here's what Vasily wrote. The German sniper was highly skilled, patient, disciplined. He didn't make mistakes. For days, Vasily and his spotter Nikolai Kulikov searched for the German, but the sniper was invisible. 2 of Vasily's comrades were killed by the sniper, shot through the head. The Germans were celebrating, taunting the Soviets, saying their best sniper was powerless. Vasily and Kulikov began studying the terrain, looking for possible hiding spots. They noticed a sheet of metal in a pile of rubble, and under that metal a faint glint, possibly a rifle scope. Vasily had an idea. Kulikov would use a decoy, a helmet on a stick raised slowly from a window. If the German shot at it, he'd reveal his position. Kulikov raised the helmet carefully, slowly. A shot rang out. The helmet flew from the stick. The German had taken the bait. And for just an instant, the German sniper moved, peeked out to see if he'd hit his target. That was all Vasily needed. He saw the movement, he saw the German's head, and he fired. 1 shot, through the German sniper's head. Dead. Vasily took the German sniper scope as a trophy. Whether the dead sniper was truly Major Koenig or simply a skilled German corporal, we may never know. But the psychological impact was real. The Germans' attempt to kill Vasily Zaitsev had failed. And Vasily kept hunting. Chapter 7. Blinded in Battle. January 10th, 1943. Vasily was leading a group of snipers in an assault on German positions. The Soviets were pushing the Germans back. Victory at Stalingrad was within reach. But Vasily made a mistake. He advanced into an open area and a German mortar shell exploded nearby. Shrapnel tore into Vasily. His face, his eyes. The pain was blinding, literally. When Vasily regained consciousness, he couldn't see. The shrapnel had damaged his eyes. He was blind. Vasily was treated by Professor Vladimir Filatov, one of the world's leading ophthalmologists. Filatov performed multiple surgeries, experimental procedures, pioneering techniques. And miraculously, on February 10, 1943, after weeks of surgery and recovery, Vasily opened his eyes and saw light. His vision was restored, not perfect, but functional. Vasily Zaitsev could see again. On February 22, 1943, while still recovering, Vasily was awarded the title Hero of the Soviet Union, the highest honor in the USSR. The Gold Star, the Order of Lenin. But the war wasn't over, and Vasily wasn't done fighting. Chapter 8. Return to Battle. After recovering, Vasily returned to the front, but his days as a frontline sniper were mostly over. His injuries had taken a toll. Instead, Vasily became a commander. He led a mortar platoon, then a rifle company. He trained more snipers. He continued fighting, but in a different capacity. He fought in the Battle of the Dnieper, in the liberation of Odessa. He pushed west with the Red Army as they drove the Germans back towards Berlin. On May 9, 1945, Victory Day, Vasily was in a hospital again, recovering from another wound. But the war was over. Nazi Germany had surrendered. Vasily had survived. He'd killed an estimated 242 to 400 enemy soldiers during the war. He'd trained dozens of snipers who killed thousands more. He'd become a legend. And now he had to figure out what to do in peacetime. Chapter 9. Life After the War. After the war, Vasily settled in Kyiv, Ukraine. He studied at a textile university and became an engineer. Later, he rose to become the director of a textile factory. For most of his life, Vasily lived quietly. He married, he worked, he tried to forget the horrors of Stalingrad. But the Soviet system hadn't forgotten him, and it wasn't grateful. From 1951 to 1953, during Stalin's paranoid final years, Vasily was held in a pre-trial detention center. A war hero of the Soviet Union, imprisoned because Stalin's regime suspected everyone of being spies or traitors. Vasily was eventually released without charges, but the experience must have been bitter, risking his life for the Soviet Union only to be treated as a criminal. He rarely spoke about the war. He wrote his memoirs, titled Notes of a Russian Sniper. But he didn't seek fame. He didn't brag. He just lived. December 15, 1991, Vasily Zaitsev died in Kyiv at the age of 76, just 11 days before the dissolution of the Soviet Union. The country he'd fought for was about to disappear. Vasily had one final request: to be buried in Stalingrad, the city he'd defended, the place where he'd become a legend. But he was buried in Kyiv, his wish unfulfilled.
Then, in 2006, the Russian government finally acted. On January 31, 2006, the 63rd anniversary of the end of the Battle of Stalingrad, Vasily Zaitsev was exhumed from his grave in Kiev. His remains were transported to Volgograd, the modern name for Stalingrad, and on that day, with full military honors, Vasily Zaitsev was reburied at Mamayev Kurgan, the memorial complex overlooking Volgograd. Mamayev Kurgan is where some of the fiercest fighting of the Battle of Stalingrad took place. It's where 35,000 Soviet defenders are buried. It's crowned by an enormous statue, the Motherland Calls, a woman raising a sword toward the sky. And now Vasily Zaitsev rests there, among his brothers, in the city he defended, where he became a legend. His grave is visited by thousands of people every year. Russians, Europeans, Americans, everyone who knows the story of Stalingrad. Chapter 11. The Legacy and the Legend. Today, Vasily Zaitsev is remembered as one of the greatest snipers in military history. His rifle is displayed in the Museum for the Defense of Stalingrad. His story has been told in books, films, and documentaries. The 2001 film, Enemy at the Gates, introduced Vasily to a new generation, though historians debate the film's accuracy. But beyond the legend, what can we say about the real Vasily Zaitsev? First, he was extraordinarily skilled. His 242 confirmed kills make him one of the deadliest snipers of World War II. Only Simo Häyhä, the Finnish sniper, killed more. Second, Vasily was a teacher. He didn't just kill Germans himself. He trained dozens of other snipers. His tactics and methods are still studied by military snipers today. Third, Vasily understood psychological warfare. Every German officer he killed spread fear through enemy ranks. Every day, German soldiers had to move through Stalingrad. They knew Vasily or one of his students might be watching, waiting. That psychological pressure was as valuable as the kills themselves. Finally, Vasily's story became propaganda. The Soviet government promoted him as a hero to boost morale. Stories about him were exaggerated. His duel with Major Koenig might have been invented or embellished. But the core truth remains. Vasily Zaitsev was real. His kills were real. And his impact on the Battle of Stalingrad was real. Chapter 12.
What Vasily teaches us. So what can we learn from Vasily Zaitsev? What does his story teach us? First, Vasily's story teaches us about patience. In a battle where thousands died in chaotic close combat, Vasily succeeded by being patient, waiting for hours, days, for the perfect shot. In a world that demands instant results, Vasily showed that patience wins. Second, Vasily's story teaches us about adaptation. He took hunting skills learned in the Siberian wilderness and adapted them to urban warfare. He studied his enemies. He improvised. He created new tactics for a new type of battlefield. Third, Vasily understood psychological warfare. Every German officer he killed spread fear through enemy ranks. Every day, German soldiers had to move through Stalingrad. They knew Vasily, or one of his students, might be watching, waiting. That psychological pressure was as valuable as the kills themselves. Finally, Vasily's story became propaganda. The Soviet government promoted him as a hero to boost morale. Stories about him were exaggerated. His duel with Major Koenig might have been invented or embellished. But the core truth remains. Vasily Zaitsev was real. His kills were real. And his impact on the Battle of Stalingrad was real. Chapter 13. What Vasily teaches us. So what can we learn from Vasily Zaitsev? What does his story teach us? First, Vasily's story teaches us about patience. In a battle where thousands died in chaotic close combat, Vasily succeeded by being patient, waiting for hours, days, for the perfect shot. In a world that demands instant results, Vasily showed that patience wins. Second, Vasily's story teaches us about adaptation. He took hunting skills learned in the Siberian wilderness and adapted them to urban warfare. He studied his enemies. He improvised. He created new tactics for a new type of battlefield. Third, Vasily understood psychological warfare. Every German officer he killed spread fear through enemy ranks. Every day, German soldiers had to move through Stalingrad. They knew Vasily or one of his students might be watching, waiting. That psychological pressure was as valuable as the kills themselves. Finally, Vasily's story became propaganda. The Soviet government promoted him as a hero to boost morale. Stories about him were exaggerated. His duel with Major Koenig might have been invented or embellished. But the core truth remains. Vasily Zaitsev was real. His kills were real. And his impact on the Battle of Stalingrad was real. Closing. Let me take you back to those ruins of Stalingrad. November 1942. The city is frozen, destroyed. Hell on earth. German and Soviet soldiers are dying by the thousands. And somewhere in those ruins, a Soviet sniper lies motionless, watching, waiting, patient as death itself. A German officer steps out of his bunker just for a moment, just to check on his men. One shot, through the head, dead before he hits the ground. The sniper relocates, invisible, a ghost in the rubble. The Germans will never find him. They'll just know he's out there, waiting. Always waiting. That was Vasily Zaitsev, the Hare, the sniper who saved Stalingrad. In 2 months, 224 confirmed kills, possibly 400 total, trained dozens more snipers, broke German morale, turned the tide of the bloodiest battle in human history. Vasily Grigorievich Zaitsev, March 23, 1915 to December 15, 1991. Hero of the Soviet Union, the most celebrated sniper of World War II. Russian legend. Remember his lesson, that patience, skill, and understanding your enemy can turn you into a force more powerful than an army. That one person in the right place at the right time can change history. Remember his words,
For us, there was no land beyond the Volga. And remember where he rests. Mamayev Kurgan, Stalingrad. Home at last. The hare has finished his hunt, but his legend lives forever.